What's poppin', Peacemakers? It is me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. Peacemaker Episode 2 has descended upon us like a murderous bald eagle in the night. And because we here at Heavy Spoilers are all dedicated lovers of peace and all peacemaking activities from both humans and birds alike, we are going to break down that episode for you here so that you guys are all aware of the Easter eggs and details that you may have missed. So let's just go ahead and break this thing down. Piece by piece. Episode 2 is titled A Man is Only as Good as His Bird, a play on the saying, a man is only as good as his word. And it begins by shoving our asses in a time machine and bringing us back 8 months into the past, about 2 months before Peacemaker would accidentally discover a seemingly perfect alternate universe connected to his quantum unfolding storage area that his dad bought from IKEA with 3 Ks. Economos escorts newly appointed acting director Rick Flag Sr. into the offices of Argus, whose comic book accurate gazing eye logo we can see on the glass doors. And in the DCEU, Argus stands for Advanced Research Group of the United States, which we can see on the wall here. This differs from the comic book universe's acronym, which had Argus stand for Advanced Research Group Uniting Superhumans, which is technically Argush, but everyone collectively decided to make the H silent so that their agents didn't sound like drunk pirates when introducing themselves. And as the two begin walking through Argus HQ, a news report on TV reveals that Rick Flag Sr. had become director of Argus due to Amanda Waller deciding to step down from the role before having to face Congress in an upcoming hearing. Homegirl is still in big trouble after her daughter Leotaa snitched about her obsession with blowing the minds of prisoners with Task Force X. And I'm sure that Congress isn't exactly thrilled about Amanda Waller's work with Task Force M, aka the Creature Commandos, which resulted in the assassination of the leader of Pakistan, a nation sitting on a shit ton of petroleum that the United States was trying to secure for themselves, as the United States tends to do. And before Rick Flag even sits his ass down on his fancy new desk, his first order as acting director is for Economos to deliver him a full summary of how his son Rick Flag Jr., played by Joel Kinnaman, died on the Suicide Squad's classified mission to the war-torn nation of Corto Maltese, which we of course saw in James Gunn's first ever DC project, 2021's The Suicide Squad. Flag reads the files and then orders Agent Sasha Bordeaux to begin monitoring Peacemaker at all times, despite Peacemaker being in Argus's good graces for saving the world from an alien invasion last season. And you will be in our good graces if you guys buy one of our dope-ass merch options over at the Heavy Spoilers merch store. We've got a bunch of dope shirts for you and the shirtless nerds in your life, like our new Isolation, Perfect Organism, and Building Better Worlds shirts inspired by the Alien franchise, or even our Vintage Weapons and 2:17 AM shirts inspired by 2025's Weapons movie. We are constantly updating the store with only the newest and most creative designs, so check out the Heavy Spoilers merch store today to pick up something nice to wear on your body. But yeah, after the intro, we are dropped right where we left off last episode, with the tragic results of Chris-on-Chris violence staining the floor of Peacemaker's big-ass closet. Our Peacemaker is big-time traumatized after having killed his alternate universe self at the end of the last episode, which makes sense considering how Peacemaker was already dealing with the guilt of having killed his own brother and father in his own universe. So, by eliminating his own self, Peacemaker would have eliminated the entire Smith family over the course of his life, which is an even heavier burden to shoulder, even for someone as jacked as John Cena. And after hilariously trying to hide the body, Chris heads back to his own bedroom to call his weird-ass buddy Adrien so they can bro out with some bone saws. And when Chris grabs his phone, we can see that he's decorated that phone with the emblem of Maxwell Lord's Justice Gang, showing how much he badly wanted to be included amongst their number. Meanwhile, Adebayo decides to head back to her partner's apartment, but quickly learns that her and her partner have officially broken up and that her stopping by unannounced privileges have been revoked by her ex, Kia, played once again by actress Elizabeth Faith Ludlow. And during their rather rough conversation, Kia is wearing her uniform for her job at Jitters Coffee, a coffee house chain introduced in the DC Comics in 2010's The Flash #1.
Folks, CC Jitters is here to stay, rain or
Hands
shine.
in the air, you phone-loving fascists!
And if you watch the Superman movie, then you might have noticed that Clark Kent was holding a cup of Jitters coffee in his hands at the beginning of the movie while arriving at the Daily Planet. Leotaa, on the other hand, is of course wearing a shirt inspired by J. Howard Miller's World War II We Can Do It artwork, a piece of art repurposed to empower women and the overall feminist movement. A great shirt for Leotaa to wear to reflect her growing faith in her abilities as a badass bitch. And during their argument, Kia calls out Leotaa for changing their plans to head back to Gotham City, which is an outrageous thing to complain about considering how Gotham City is literally one of the worst places to live in the entire DC universe. Like, you better calm your little Slim Shady looking ass down and realize how blessed you are to live in the state of Washington, a magical land where you don't have to answer a riddle in order to continue living the rest of your life. But anyways, while Leotaa is busy getting rejected by her not-wife, Amelia Hardcourt is busy shopping for party supplies at Vaughn's Drugs. Well, shopping and yelling at a nice lady for caring about Hardcourt's facial injuries. Hardcourt's cranky ass then proceeds to compare a red-headed onlooker to the goofy-looking Beaker from The Muppet Show, an absolutely diabolical stray taken from behind the store shelf. Mostly because Hardcourt was right on the money. That dude looks exactly like Beaker. And on her way out of the drugstore after causing a scene, Hardcourt starts thinking about possibly spending her nights and weekends at Vaughn's Drugs just so she can make fun of the rest of the Muppets that Evergreen, Washington has to offer. Something that would undoubtedly bring her great joy while getting her delinquent bills paid in the meantime. That was sarcasm. She would hate this job. Then we switch on over to Mr. John Economos as he eats McDonald's while monitoring Peacemaker's house in his meaner, cleaner, rugs and such undercover truck. John then gets startled by the sudden arrival of Argus agent Langston Fleury, played by the massively funny Tim Meadows. Easily my favorite character in this series so far, because this dude has made me laugh so many times throughout this episode, man. Like, he works so well with James Gunn's unique brand of comedy. And Langston Fleury would undoubtedly be Argus's best agent were it not for his pesky bird blindness, his #1 weakness that prevents him from being able to discern a bald eagle from a parrot or a duck. And speaking of bald eagles, when Peacemaker answers the door for Leotaa shortly after this, Eagley decides to screech at her before flying away. And yes, while we have seen Eagley act this way towards Leotaa when they first met in Peacemaker Season 1, I don't know, man. This is definitely a wild theory for sure, but part of me thinks that this Eagley could have squawked at Leotaa because this Eagley used to have racist owners over in the other universe. I mean, this is just an offshoot of my theory from last episode's breakdown, where I brought up the possibility that the Eagleys from each of these two universes could have flown to the wrong universe while flying around in the quantum unfolding storage area. I mean, Chris even tells Leotaa during their conversation how he routinely lets Eagley fly around there when he can't let him roam free outside. So we do know that there have been multiple opportunities in the past for these two parrots to do a parrot trap and swap places. And yes, I know they're not parrots, I'm just being stupid. I can see the comments now. MT called Eagley a parrot. What's he doing? I'm pretending to have bird blindness. And if this alternate universe Augie is as racist as he was in Season 1, then there is a chance that the entire Smith family is racist in that universe as well, including Peacemaker's pet Eagley. But there of course is a chance that I'm reading too much into things, and Eagley is just being the salty pelican that he has always been. And while sitting on his front steps, Peacemaker shows Leotaa a picture of his quantum unfolding storage area before she calls Peacemaker weird for thinking that having one of those in your house is a normal thing to have. Peacemaker attempts to counter this point by comparing her Methodism to Martian shit, a comparison that Leotaa did not appreciate, and neither would Martian Manhunter if he wasn't too busy being a green freak in outer space to be in this series. Sorry, that came out a lot more racist than I intended. I promise I'm not racist against green people. But then again, the Grinch who stole Christmas was not a blue motherfucker. He was not a red motherfucker. He was green. But anyways, Leotaa goes on to tell Chris that Rick Flag Sr. knows that he killed his son back in Corto Maltese, and that he's monitoring the energy signature coming out of Chris's house every time he opens up his magic Monsters Inc. door to 99 realities. She also tells Chris that he needs to just give up the keys to his walk-in closet dimension to Argus so that they don't throw his big body, bedpan bonnet wearing ass back in the big house, an idea that Peacemaker quickly rejects. Then, when local weirdo Adrien Chase rolls up to Chris's house with the emergency bone saws, Flurry wastes no time in roasting his ass, immediately telling John that Adrien looks like a nerd who collected all of the Pokémen. A hilarious reference to how grown-ass adults could not pronounce the name of the Pokemon franchise if their life depended on it, back when the series was at its most popular in the late 90s. It feels like it was just yesterday when my elementary school principal announced a Pokemon ban after a bunch of kids started fighting each other for Pokemon cards. Wild times, man. You just had to be there. You would lose your life over a holographic Charizard, I'll tell you what. But anyways, Chris says goodbye to Leotaa before letting Adrien into his house full of naked people. Adrien immediately gets jealous when he sees that Chris had a bunch of people over for Naked Twister and didn't think to invite him. And right after Peacemaker tells Adrien that he effed up, the following shot shows us a dartboard in front of the doorway to the living room. The figure on this dartboard is none other than the dark cosmic DC Comics villain Eclipso, who made his first appearance in 1963's House of Secrets number 61. Peacemaker also had this dartboard in his trailer in the first season. Chris then brings Adrien to his quantum closet and shows him the dead and bloody body of his alternate self, a sight that causes Adrien to immediately compliment the other Peacemaker's helmet, underscoring just how much of a sociopath that Adrien actually is when it comes to disturbing matters of death, because this dude did not care whatsoever. Peacemaker opening his magic closet ends up releasing more extra-dimensional energies that Argus agents Economos, Flurry, and Bordeaux are immediately able to detect, leading to Bordeaux to order Flurry to put together a strike team to break into Chris's house when he's at a get-together with the 11th Street kids later on. The Foxy Shazam song Evil Thoughts plays as Chris and Adrien chop up and incinerate the body of the Peacemaker who pieced out of life, with Foxy Shazam also being the band that performs the song Oh Lord for Season 2's opening. We are then brought to Chris's bedroom as his sad ass begins to look through the phone of his deceased and cooked other self. And as he does, we can see a poster for the rock band Kiss on his wall, as well as a poster for the webcomic Brood Hollow created by Chris Straub. Chris then scrolls through the other Chris's pictures of Hardcourt on his phone, where we can see that this other Peacemaker had previously received an Evergreen Guardian Award to stack onto the mountain of other awards that he and the Smith family top trio have received over their careers. Meanwhile, the absolutely badass song Repercussions by the Cruel Intentions plays as Agent Flurry's team prepares to do a B&E on P&E. P&E means Peacemaker and Eagley, by the way. All the cool kids are saying it. And speaking of cool kids, amongst Flurry's group is one of my personal favorite actors in the game right now, the super talented and absolutely hilarious Mr. Brandon Stanley, the agent formerly known as Ponyboy and Barely Legal. If his face looks familiar to you, then you probably recognize him from Daredevil's episode of Marvel's She-Hulk Attorney at Law, where he played one of the most powerful crime fighters in the Marvel Universe, Leapfrog, the very man who will undoubtedly beat the frog out of Doctor Doom in Avengers Secret Wars in order to save the entire Marvel Cinematic Frogiverse. That's right, you heard me. I say it how I live it. Ribbit and rip it, bitches. Frog Squad for life. But no, seriously, I have an extra strong love for Brandon Stanley in particular because that dude sent me a Leapfrog figurine with a signed autograph a few years ago for being a massive Leapfrog fan, and it's one of my most treasured possessions to this day. I literally have it right next to the James Gunn Funko Pop that James Gunn sent me a few years ago. Like, I love both of those men, and I'm so glad that they're working together on a project. Go ahead and follow Brandon Stanley over at Brandon__Stanley on Instagram, because he's a great man. But yeah, other than Brandon Stanley's Agent Cupid doll, we have actor Anissa Matlock as Special Agent Titties, Ronaldo Fabrel as Mexicali, and Dorian Kinji as Encino Man, a reference to the 1992 movie starring Brendan Fraser and Sean Astin. And as this badass looking strike team get geared up for their mission, we can see they're handling a bunch of dangerous and high-tech equipment around children, implying that they're getting ready at one of these agents' homes, likely Agent Mexicali. The children are playing with toy guns themselves while watching some old school Looney Tunes on TV. However, little did those children know that these Argus agents were about to get absolutely fucked up by the most dangerous seagull in the DCU after they confirmed the source of the extra-dimensional energy signature in Chris's room. I mean, trust me, I'm not stupid. I already knew that Eagley was a flying force of fearsome feathers in season 1 of Peacemaker. But holy hell did this toucan torture these trespassers in this episode. Like, bro straight up turned into Woody the Neckpecker all up on Agent Titties, man. He made that woman bleed. Like, that shit was gross, but perfect. But gross, but perfect. And what makes this amazing fight sequence even better is how, after Chicken Little falls from the sky on Flurry's face, we can see Eagley himself do yet another one of James Gunn's iconic slow-motion walks set to Dirty Money by Ida Maria. James Gunn makes sure to include one of these slow-mo walks in pretty much every single one of his superhero projects, like Guardians of the Galaxy, The Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, and Peacemaker. And with the house safely defended, a very drunk Peacemaker makes his way back home after a get-together with the homies, one that results in him being pushed away by his love interest Hardcourt yet again. And when Chris goes to sit on his bed during this moment, we can see a poster on his wall for Def Leppard Hits Vegas live at Planet Hollywood. We learned in last episode that alternate universe Chris had his own Def Leppard poster in his room, albeit spelled differently in a gross, grammatically correct sort of way. Drunk Chris then proceeds to grab the iPhone of his deceased other self. And when he does, we can see the case on that phone is covered in a snake skin design. This seems significant to me because this Chris appears to be heavily snake themed, as we saw last episode in the form of a cobra statue behind dead Peacemaker's bedroom door, as well as this snake ornament atop of the dead Peacemaker's fireplace. This really makes me wonder if it's going to be revealed that this other Peacemaker could possibly be affiliated with some sort of snake-themed cult in this universe, possibly even DC Comics' Cobra Cult, which was introduced in the pages of 1976's Cobra #1, along with the Cobra Cult's leader, Cobra. And while Christopher Smith has never had the identity of Cobra in the DC Comics, comic book White Dragon never went by the name of Augie Smith either. So I think that much like how Augie went from being Peacemaker to White Dragon, leader of the Aryan Empire, this other dead Christopher could have been gearing up for a transition from his Peacemaker persona to his new identity as Cobra, with this Cobra cult being his own version of the Aryan Empire. But that is just a complete guess, to be honest. To my knowledge, the DC Comics Cobra cult has never been associated with any racist activities. However, I can still totally see James Gunn making a new version of the Cobra cult that's meant to be a parody of Marvel Comics' Sons of the Serpent, who were actually an evil racist organization. But yeah, after grabbing this iPhone, Peacemaker decides to text alternate universe Hardcourt, but because he's in the wrong universe, the message does not send. So Chris's drunk dumbass decides to walk his ass over to the other universe so that it actually sends, leading to the alternate universe Hardcourt responding to that text with a broken heart, implying that she deeply misses her ex. But what's particularly interesting to me is how, when Peacemaker selects her name in the phone, we aren't able to see any of their previous text messages to one another, implying that this dead Christopher may have deleted their messages after their breakup, which is kind of an odd thing for this version of Peacemaker to do, in my opinion, considering that he still has a bunch of pictures of Hardcourt in his bedroom, but who knows? Maybe their last text messages to one another were just too messy for that Chris to want to remember. Then the episode ends with the sounds of We Don't Need a Cure by Hardcourt Superstar as Peacemaker starts flirting with the ex-girlfriend of the man he killed just hours before. And as he does, I love how the final shot of this episode frames the chandelier in the distance into a golden halo above Peacemaker's head, symbolizing Peacemaker's intentions on being a reborn version of this new universe's Christopher. But anyways, that is it for this episode breakdown of episode 2 of season 2 of Peacemaker. Let us know what you guys think of the season so far in the comment section down below. And personally, I think that something fishy is going on in this universe, and I'm curious to see if you guys think so as well. So let me know your theories on how this universe is going to present itself later on the season down below as well. But like always, you guys can follow me at Mastertainment on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and lately Twitch, because I'm going to start streaming on my twitch.tv/Mastertainment /mastertainment very soon, so I would love to see you guys there to hang out and talk random with me. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and maybe even hitting that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. But like always, I've been MT, you guys have been amazing, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.